Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Karen Sunday as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. This is from an act named Karen Mok, titled Radio Love Song, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Interesting balance on the left and right sides there. And organs.
爱了以后又不觉可靠，你和我看着霓虹，穿过了爱情的街道，有种不真实味道。我们一直忘了要搭一座桥，到对方心底瞧一瞧，体会彼此什么才最需要，别再寂寞的拥抱。
Great to have a vocal break here away from the story. And the flamenco acoustic is great as well.
谁能够将电台情歌关掉？它将你我心事唱得太敏感。当两颗心放在感情天平上，想了太多又做的太少。你和我仰望星空，走到了爱情的边疆，有种不确定预感。
Fantastic feel there as well.
我们一直忘了要搭一座桥，到对方心底瞧一瞧，体会彼此什么才最需要，别再寂寞的拥抱。我们一直忘了要搭一座桥，对方心里瞧一瞧。
And the backing vocals as well, the choral response between those is fantastic.
需要，别再寂寞的拥抱。
Major lift. It's a thoroughly intriguing piece of music. Like, there's so much effort and attention to detail put in to try and make it an intriguing listen throughout. Very compelling, and I'm going to have a look through the lyrics, and we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. So we've got the lyrics here kindly provided by Karen Sunday for this track titled Radio Love Songs. Lyrics are done by Yao Shan and composer Wang Jiping, if I'm not mistaken. So the lyrics are, who can turn off the power of the moon in the sky? It illuminates her silence too clearly. The lyrics are incredibly poetic, aren't they? We know too little about love, and after we love, we don't feel reliable. So there's a bit of introspection going on here. You and I look at the neon rainbow and walk through the streets of love. It smells unreal. Oh, I get it. So they forget to build a bridge to each other. They're walking alongside, but haven't really truly connected. Who can turn off all the love songs on the radio? When two hearts are placed on the scale of love, they think too much and do too little. We keep forgetting to build a bridge to look into each other's hearts and realize what we need most. No more lonely hugs. We keep forgetting to build a bridge to look into each other's hearts and see what we see most. Okay, I get it. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Karen Mok titled Radio Love Song. Now, what do I think it's about? I think it's about someone going through the relationship they had with someone else, their lover, and realizing things are not the way they were supposed to be or the way they need to be. And it's just inextricably ended up being a situation where they wish they could have connected with each other more, built those bridges. But now things have not worked out very well, and they just want the radio to stop playing all those love songs, to stop being reminded of it. They don't want to have the lonely hugs anymore. They're hoping they can potentially repair things, but at the moment it's not really sure if they're doing that. They understand just how inexperienced they were at love to begin with, and that it was not going to be a given that things were going to work out at the start. Almost like it seemed like they didn't necessarily deserve to be in love with each other or to be with each other. I think that's a beautiful story to discuss there. When Karen sings this, they sound like they're going through it. They sound like they're going through what they're singing about. You can relate to it, not just on like a story level, as I'm sure a lot of people in the audience will be able to appreciate, those feelings of love and the difficulties, relationships, and all that kind of stuff. But it's also where you have the feelings, those melodies that are carried in the verses and different chorus sections and stuff like that, as well as in the little vocal breaks. We kind of go into a hidden mixed voice there. We explore those mid to upper ranges there, and it's really pretty, but you also get the feeling that they are just kind of healing at the moment. They maybe are in the midst of realizing things aren't going to work out there. It's tricky. Like you can tell what's going on, but it's difficult to not appreciate how good it sounds regardless, and how well the singing suits the various different instruments within this track. There are so many different layers instrumentally within this piece of music. It's stunning. It's a well fleshed out tune. There's a lot to appreciate, and I think when you have the vocals as the main focal point, you kind of need all these different objects underneath to keep it compelling the whole way throughout. I think that I listened to a song from Karen Mok titled like Love Yourself or something along those lines there, and it was a very, very, very different song to this. Very different. I'm wondering if we made that song after this one, but just to kind of get to a point where we love ourselves and stuff. Maybe Radio Love Songs was our position beforehand, where we were sort of figuring out how to love ourselves. But ultimately we show solid vocal technique, and we have a great presence in the mix, and there's just so much to appreciate throughout there. The few of the instruments I really enjoyed within this piece were the guitarist, both the kind of pick patterns, the sort of pseudo leads that alternated between the vocals and those breaks there. But also they were subtly recorded on the sides there. And there were other sort of plucked elements as well there that were very pretty sounding and delicate, and they sat in the ether with the ambience from also other sort of key elements in the organs there, the organ kind of spiritualizing like kind of relationships, maybe like a marriage or like a higher power kind of looking up to try and figure out what to do and such, It was just it was kind of chilling. It was almost like a cold kind of sadness that we felt at that point, as if we're trying to infer that was that point where we were going through, and it was very vivid. The bass line underneath, though, was nice and tight with the root notes. And I know I say that every time, but it's almost excruciatingly difficult to stuff up a bass line for a track. And like you usually know absolutely initially if something's off with the bass. So it's a type performance on the bass guitar, but probably not one of the main sort of focal points for me personally. I think that there was some interesting sort of like synth or kind of, there were these textures, these kind of whistling textures, if I'm not mistaken there, that almost seemed like a cold wind blowing by there. It was kind of surreal. I appreciate the fact that we didn't just stick with traditionally sort of like analog elements there. The guitar had a sense of romanticism to it. The tone of that with the grace and the space there, as if we were consuming our thoughts in between murmuring words, was really intriguing. I also want to give a shout out, while I remember, to the backing vocals, like the choir in that last part of the track there, because that's very important as well. I'm aware that I should have probably spoken about that in the vocal section or the first little bit of this analysis, but I appreciated how they came later on as if to sort of back Karen Mok as they continue to try and build that bridge, as if they're supporting them to be able to do that, and they just form this lovely glow in this environment where there is predominantly a minor key, but there is also somewhat of a sense of hope that we'll be able to get through this, even if it's not particularly strong, if it's kind of faint. And there's this kind of moogish sign of synth as we go through it. I'm just checking that I'm saying the right things here, because there's a lot to absorb. Wow, kind of this portamento synth in that mid-range that comes in later on, just as an additional bit of kind of wonderment in that mid-range. In this track, we would literally go section by section and add more and more and more and more. It never felt like too much. They managed to niche it in really masterfully, but it's just worth noting that part of what makes this track so cool is almost like we're making progress through our own sort of self-development and our own self-realization here, or self-actualization. We are also... the song is kind of coming through that as well. I should also note the little hand drums were a nice kind of softer texture to kind of contrast against the more balladesque kind of drums that we had there with the kicks, snares, and the cymbals there. And they were typically more of a supportive groove we pocketed there. We weren't trying to take away too much focus on the vocals or anything else there. We're just kind of there to give the listeners something to sort of like nod their head alongside the story being told. I also just want to give a final comment there. I noticed that major lift that I spoke about during the listening section. I thought that was really well handled at the end there, almost like we had that realization that if we build that bridge, things might improve. And I adore that. I think it's a great signal to the listener that that journey through all this discovery has been worth it, and that there is potentially going to be a happy ending, even if we can't get to that resolution immediately. Ultimately, this is a track with a motif which kind of flirts with sadness a little bit, with some uncomfortable, sort of like diminished, sort of like some tense chords there, but also infers to you eventually that things are going to be okay. It's just you've got all these kind of twos and throws. We're not trying to be too severe with the chord choices or anything like that. We're trying to be gentle with the rhythms. We're trying to be sort of like almost kind of like soothing with the layers. There's no harsh edges to any of the textures within this. It's just more a case where we've got a range of emotions expressed there. I think the overall motif or sentiment is simply there to kind of mirror what we're feeling without going too far into it, kind of inviting the listener to sort of imagine more of the pain as they get more of the instruments to the track and things sort of develop from there. That's my best take on it. I think it's a really cool song, and I do like Karen Mok stuff, and I'm glad to be hearing more of it. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering, the production is tight. You know, it's great. Everything was nicely lit within the frequency spectrum. The stereo field, the mix itself, the instruments were sort of like nice and balanced together. Things were not constant in the stereo field. There were all these different movements backwards and forwards and different things popping up. And at the start of the mix, there was quite a bit going on the right side of the stereo field, which I know is for you guys is the left. It's mirrored. Yeah, like it was like that. And then like on the left side, which is the right side for you, like things came in a little bit later on. And I wasn't sure if it was my headphones or if it was the track itself. And it was the track itself, I think. And I enjoy the fact that keeping things a bit uneven kind of lets the listener know, hey, these feelings are washing over me. You know what I mean? So it's clever stuff. You know, lots of cool stuff happening with the production side of things. And yeah, ultimately, it's just, it's nice and low without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled, but there's also dynamic range. Things are not the same loudness all the time. And I appreciate that. There's depth to it. It's quality. But thank you for watching and Karen's vocals are just a really well captured take there. They can clearly sing. There's no overproduction of it. They did really well. And so did the choir. In fact, so did practically everyone involved with this. So thank you for watching my review of this track from an actor named Karen Mok, titled Radio Love Song, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool. Stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SB Patrons video. Spiderhands out.